Okay, so we should be live. If we're not, then let me know in chat. But the plan today is to build out my Obsidian Vault from complete scratch. So I'm going to go as if you've never started Obsidian, but bear in mind I have obviously used Obsidian a fair bit. Let's mute myself so I don't hear myself back again. I have used Obsidian a fair bit, so if I go through something really quickly, ask inside of chat. Yes, there will be a replay, so you can go backwards and forwards. If you're watching on the replay, hello. If you have any questions, put them inside the comment section below. And what I want to do throughout this video is sort of give you step marks or points of where you can get to, because obviously Obsidian you can extend to wherever you want, and it can get very complex very quickly. So I'm going to sort of give you a checkpoint of this is enough to really keep going or get going. This is where I would sort of say is like the next stage, and then there's where I'm at currently, because we're always currently or we're always dynamically changing the vault anyway. So I'm going to change over to the screen. I'm now in the bottom right, hopefully, and you should be able to see my vault switcher. So if you're completely new to Obsidian, this is probably what you will see. It's a vault switcher, and it lets you create a new vault. These are the vaults that I have. You can create a new vault, or you can open up ones that you've already got. So in this case, I'm going to create a new vault. You won't see this if you're completely new to Obsidian. So create, and then let's say live vault, and what I'm going to do is browse for a location on my computer because Obsidian is local. You can see all I'm going to do is put it in my external hard drive. You can store this pretty much anywhere you want. I'm going to store it here because that way I know where it is, so I can't accidentally delete the files. You can see it's being put in my E drive, and I'm going to create, and it's opening up my other screen. Great. So now we've got Obsidian, and this is the start of Obsidian. What I want to do here is actually clean up the workspace a little bit. So again, going all the way back and saying you're completely new. On the left side, we have the ribbon. The ribbon can then collapse and open the left sidebar. And on the right side, there is the same option to open up the right sidebar. We have the graph view, which is a core plugin I'll go through later on. And this is a tab inside of the right side panel, or side pane as it were. And if you left click, hold and drag, you can see the purple line next to the tab. So now I have two tabs in one pane. I can drag that back and wait for it to go big purple. Now it's going to create a split screen essentially. And if I drag this tab below, I now have horizontal rather than vertical. Now I don't want the graph view. You could left click on the close, but what I tend to do is use my middle mouse wheel and then click on the tab, and that closes it down like it would in your browser. That's I guess a quick tip already. And then what we have here is Live Vault. That's the name of the folder that I created originally, and Welcome is the file that Obsidian automatically gives you. I don't want this file, I don't need this file, so I'm going to right click and then delete file. This only comes up once. I never ask it for it again, because once I delete something, I actually want to delete it, so it's gone. Now, what I'm going to do is recommend how I set things up. I keep things very simple with my folder system. I have 3 folders. Well, I have more folders, but 3 folders to start with, as I mentioned at the start. There's basics, more, and then further. So I know I'm going to use templates. And what templates are essentially files that are templated, so you copy the file, as it were, to start a new file. So I know I'm going to have a collection of them, so I want a templates folder. Then the way I see it is when I'm collecting information, I'm collecting it from a source, be it a video, a podcast, a blog, an article, a book, something. So I'm going to have lots of different sources. So I have a sources folder. Then I also am going to be doing something with those sources, which means I'm going to have either essays or articles or scripts or notes of some research in some way, and that to me is a project. You could call it an essay, you could call it what you want. For me, they're projects because that's just the easiest word that I could use there. Some people call it actions, but that's essentially it for my folders. What I will do is inside of the sources folder, so at the moment there's 0 files, 0 folders in all of these, is if I left click, you can see it's completely empty, but I can right click, new folder, and then I'm going to type images, because inside of Obsidian, every image that you have has to be a file inside of Obsidian. So if I make a screen capture, I just use my hotkey, I'm going to paste an image into a new file. So, well, new note is called an Obsidian, and I'm going to paste that screenshot. That is the screenshot of my other screen, and you can see it's now created an image, but this isn't in any folder. And what this does, if you're new to Obsidian, is it completely bogs up your files. So it's not easy to deal with. It's not fun to deal with. Well, it is easy to deal with. It's not fun to deal with when it's a mess like this. It's not easy to sift through all of these different files. You can see this file, the untitled file, is right here. At the moment, it's not in any of the folders. What I can do is I can left click and drag this into the sources folder. Now it's in the sources folder, and left click and drag it into the images folder. But that's 2 movements, and I don't have to do that every time. So what I'm going to do is right click on the images folder, and then, oh, the option's not there. The option should have been there. Okay, I'll go into the settings and do it this way. So I'll go to settings, files and links, and then I want to, that's the setting that we changed a second ago. I want to, new attachments in folder specified below, and now it's going to give me that option, isn't it? Oh, no it didn't. Learning the settings as we go. So this one is going to be images. So what I'm doing is saying every time there is a new image file or any attachment file that goes into Obsidian, make sure it goes into the images folder. So now if I create another screenshot, I'm using a hotkey on my Windows, which is Shift, Windows and S, and then I'm just clicking and dragging to make the screenshot. I don't have a external tool that's just default Windows. But you can see now this pasted image has automatically gone into the images folder. That's an easy way to manage all of the images, so I now don't have to worry about it ever again. I don't have to touch that folder ever again. It just does what I need it to do. So I'm going to highlight these images, and I'm going to push Control D on my keyboard, which deletes the line. Control D deletes the line. That's easier than a backspace, so Control Z undo. If I was to push the backspace on my keyboard, it would get rid of the character, whereas if I push Control D, it gets rid of the entire block, line, paragraph. They're all essentially the same thing. So now I have a completely empty file. I have sources, projects, and untitled. What I'm going to turn this untitled file into is, you can call it a homepage, a dashboard, map of content is a concept or term that goes around in the Obsidian community a lot as well, from Nick Milo. There's literally any name you could call this. I'm going to call it homepage. Woohoo! It would be, there we go, homepage. And all this is going to be is just a file that has other files linked in it. That's literally it. There's nothing complicated about it. It's just a file to have other files in. And what I'm going to do is, you can see up at the top, I've got the bookmarks. The bookmarks plugin, I'm going to left click, drag, and I'm going to move it up slightly. So I now have the purple above. And what the bookmarks is like a favorites, starred, panel. And what I'm going to do is, with this homepage, go to the 3 dots at the top right and bookmark it. So I'm quite happy with it being called homepage, save, and now the homepage is bookmarked. What this means is I can now drag the homepage file wherever I want. So what I'm going to do is drag it into projects. So you can see it's in the projects folder. But now it's always visible at the top left of my screen. So it doesn't matter where I go, it's always visible there. So next is I'm going to go into my settings, and I'm actually going to disable some of the core plugins, because I don't want plugins that I'm not going to use, because it clutters up my space. So it clutters up the ribbon in the left sidebar. FYI, the sound is quite quiet. Is it now? What I will do is I will increase my audio a little. Hopefully that isn't too much. Thank you, Martin. So yeah, so now we've got so now I want to go through and with the core plugins. So into the settings, general, see core plugins down there, click into that. And now what I'm going to do is just disable the ones I don't use. Audio recorder lets you take an audio file and put it into Obsidian. I never do that, so that one stays off. Backlinks, I'll go through later. Bookmarks is what we've just done, so I use that. I use Canvas. Command palette lets you go to all of the hotkeys. Perfect, thanks, nice. Daily notes, I don't actually use at all. Some people use it as a journal. I personally don't see the benefit of it. It just adds lots of files to my Obsidian that I never touch after the day that I've used it, so I don't use it. File recovery, definitely use. The files is what we're looking at the moment. So the folders and files inside of the left sidebar, that is what this plugin is. If you turn that off, you see it's gone. So I definitely want to see my folders and files, but you don't have to. And you can see it's now jumped up to the top. So let's drag that down so it's in the same place. The format converter, unless you're converting a file from another format, such as Rome or Evernote or an exported file format, you won't really need this. So it's more of a turn it on when you use it and then turn it off afterwards. Otherwise it clogs up the command palette. The graph view is what we had to start with, and that's this view here. This is the view, if you're completely new to Obsidian, is something you are probably very familiar with. People showing lots of different pages, notes, files, whatever you want to call them, inside of this graph with lines going all around connecting them. I personally find it completely useless. I have not found a use for the graph view at all in either the global graph view, which is the entire vault, or the local graph view. For me, it's far too cluttered. I have around 7,000 files in my folder, in my vault folder, and I can't work out what's connected to what really. And when I do find the connections, it's far easier to find them in the backlinks anyway, which I'll go through in a minute. Well, in a minute, when I get there. I say in a minute, and then it's like 7 minutes later. So I turn the graph view off. I don't see the use of it. You can see now the button's gone in the left ribbon, which is nice and clean, well, cleaner. Note Composer is used to merge notes together. I keep this on for when I've decided maybe two projects that I had originally separate are actually really closely intertwined. So maybe remembering and remember, those are two different words. Remember comes from cognitive psychology. Remembering is a process that is spoken about in ecological psychology. So they may be titles of two different essays, but they both come under memory. So maybe I want to merge those files together. That's an example of how I might use it. One that I certainly won't be. Certainly won't be doing in my vault. Links and graph is useless. My map is more interesting. Interesting you say links. I don't think I would use Obsidian. Like, I don't think Obsidian has much use without links. Mind map, I, again, also find pretty useless because I can't be very explicit with the connections that I've made. Whereas backlinks, it's just going backwards and forwards between things. So it doesn't need explicit connections, whereas a mind map doesn't solve that for me. But I'd be interested to hear your use cases and thoughts on that. Outgoing links I have on, but I rarely use. Outline I will use. I can actually show you in the right sidebar. We have this one, which is their backlinks. We then have the outgoing links, the tags, which I'm going to drag over to the left and then click on bookmarks. So the tags will appear there. And then this is the outline that I just mentioned. So in Obsidian, we have what's called markdown. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to zoom in so people can see. And it's in the editor mode. Trying to find the settings that I never actually edit afterwards. Oh, maybe it's in appearance. Yes, there it is. Quick adjustment. So now I can zoom in. There we go. So inside of Obsidian, they're markdown files, not text files. So when you push a hash key and then write a word, it turns into a tag, and that will appear in the tags pane. But what I want to do is turn it into a heading. So I put a space before the hashtag, and now it's a heading. So it's disappeared from the tags pane and has appeared in the outline panel, because the outline is all of the headings. So we can go heading 1, and that will call it a heading 1 in there. Then if we copy that line, so Control C, go down, Control V paste, I now have two headings, and it's going to appear in two headings. So we can say heading 2, and that will change inside of there. And if we have words underneath, and then words here, we've now got words underneath heading 1 and words underneath, I can't spell, heading 2. If I drag from heading 2 above heading 1, it moves all of the, well, if I actually do it properly, there we go. It moves all the words underneath heading 2 up with it. So you can have entire sections of scripts. So when I'm writing essays, if you have an introduction section or the lit review section or a certain part of a lit review or methods, you can drag that whole section up. So it doesn't really matter what order you're in, which is why I use the outline core plugin. Let's go back to the core plugins. Scroll down. Page preview, which I definitely use with the backlinks, which is why one of the reasons why I think the links are useful, referring to the comment in chat previously. And while we're talking about it, I will discuss that. So we have this homepage file, see, and that's in the projects folder. If I create a new file, so let's call this project 1. So what I've done is I've used two square brackets, square bracket, square bracket, and that opened up a search. I didn't want to search anything, I want to create something. And I typed in project 1, and you can see it's sort of blurred out, and when I hover over, it makes it bold, I guess. It highlights the project 1, and that's because the file doesn't exist yet. It hasn't been created, but I can create it by left clicking. Alternatively, I can right click on the projects folder and create new note. So if I go into there and say project 2, I now have a project 2 in the projects folder. If I open that up, you can see projects 2 in the projects folder. If we go back to the home page, I can then left click. So we've got project 2, just so you can see everything that's in the vault, so you know what's going on. When I left click, it's going to create a file, project 1. And this project 1, ideally, would be in the projects folder, which we'll sort out later. But now, inside of project 1, I have a backlink. Well, technically it's an outgoing link, but it's also a backlink. This here is an outgoing link. This is a link that goes outwards from homepage to project 1. So when we go to the outlinks panel, you can see project 1 is an outlink, but there's no backlinks in homepage. However, when I go to project 1, now we have a backlink to the homepage because there is a link that goes back to the homepage. We go to the outlinks, there's no links that go out to anything inside of project 1, but there is a page that goes back to project 1 from home. Hopefully that makes sense. So when I left click in the backlinks, I'm now back at project 1. Something I use all of the time is my middle mouse click on the scroll wheel. So if I hover over the backlink and middle mouse click, it opens that file in a new tab. And now I can left click, drag, and now I have a split screen. So I have my homepage on the left side, my project 1 on the right side, and my homepage has an outgoing link to project 1, which creates a backlink from project 1 to homepage. What I can now do is create 2 square brackets, then go to project 2, that's the other file we have in the projects folder, enter. Now project 2 is an outgoing link in project 1, which means inside of project 2 there must be a backlink to project 1. So if we come down here, we've now got 3 split screens, one of the reasons I love Obsidian. So in project 2, it goes back to project 1, and project 1 goes back to homepage. Homepage goes out to project 1, and project 1 goes out to project 2. Hopefully that makes sense. That's backlinks and outgoing links inside of Obsidian. I'm going to middle mouse wheel click on project 2 to close that down, and the same for this one. And what the page preview is at the moment when I hover over my mouse there's nothing. But if I push Control on my keyboard, I can now see the file. And this is the project 1 file. So if I was to add something in here, writing text, and hover over and push Control on my keyboard, you can see that is the file. So I can see project 1 file without actually opening it up, which is one of the benefits of using links inside of Obsidian, because you can page preview what's going on. And when I go to the settings, you can see in this left side we've got the core plugins. I'm going to go down to page preview, and this is where you can require Control to trigger the page preview. I personally, when I'm writing, don't want to have to push Control whenever I want to see something. So I actually turn this off for the editing view. So now when I hover over, it's automatically going to show. So my other hand is off the keyboard and I'm not actually holding Control on my keyboard. And you can see, there it is. And this actually works all the way through. So project 2, I can now see project 2. There's nothing in project 2 at the moment. So let's go in there and writing more text. So in homepage, I can hover over, then hover over, and I can see the text. So practical example, I'm in my homepage. I want to find something that's inside of a project. I go to the project. Project 2 is a related project, so I can click in there. But if that's a source, so let's say inside of project 1, let's go to project 1 there, we have a source 1, and let's just create that file very quickly. I can go project 1, that's the source I want, and I can see the source without actually having to go to the file. This is extremely powerful when you're doing research, and you can actually open it up from there as well, which is why I like Obsidian and the links. So that is the page preview. I keep these settings like this. What this means is search, backlinks, outgoing links. When you're hovering over them, you have to push Control to see the file. So if we're in here, I have to push Control to see the file. That's how I like it. Otherwise, when you scroll down, so here we've got 2, it would constantly flick up all of the files, and it just becomes a mess to deal with, and you end up pushing the mouse over and having to try to navigate the actual file you want to see. So I don't bother turning these off, because it just gets in the way from my experience, which is why I have it set like this. While we're in these core plugin settings, I'm going to turn this one on. So the backlinks that's in the side can be put, you can see, at the bottom of the document. So if I close the file down and then open it back up, just to reset Obsidian or remind Obsidian what we're doing, and now we have the backlinks at the bottom of the file. So this is the outgoing link to project 1. But if we go to project 1, we have the outgoing link to project 2 and the outgoing link to source 1, but it's also showing the backlink to homepage, and that's where we just were. The unlinked mentions I never use. I can explain it if you want. Let me know in the comment section, or ask in the comments in the replay. But I never use the unlinked mentions, so I'm not going to bother. Not going to bother going through it. So that's the backlinks. Let's go back and turn off anything else that we don't use. So page preview is fine. I don't use the properties view. I keep that one off. Publish, I don't pay for it, so I keep it off. Quick switcher, I definitely use all of the time. That helps you quickly switch, aptly named, between all of the files, which I'll go through later on, probably quite a lot. Random note, I have never found a use for this, so I keep this off. Search, yes, I use this. That is this button right here, and this lets you search for anything. So if I type P, it's going to show me everywhere a P has appeared. So that's in the file name and in all of the text inside of the file. So you can see this is text inside of the homepage, and this is text inside of the project 1 page. And then also project 2 is showing because there's a P in the project. And there's lots of other things you can do with search, but that's the general gist. It searches for everything, whereas the quick switcher, which is the button in the ribbon for, I believe it's Control O is the default. Yes, it is. Now you can quickly switch between files. So it doesn't search for all of the things, just the files. So you can see it's got homepage, project 1, source 1, and project 2. It doesn't show me anything else. And we can actually be more specific with that, which I'll change that now while we're here. I believe it is here, yes. So in files and links, you can see excluded files. And what this does is it doesn't exclude them completely from the search, but it does reduce them down in priority. So no excluded file is applied right now because we haven't added anything. I don't want the templates to appear at the top. I also don't want the sources to appear at the top because when I personally search for something, I'm searching for a project most of the time. I'm going to save that. Now, when I go to the quick switcher and type P, you can see this and this, these two images are grayed out. It's not extremely obvious on my screen, maybe it's because of my screen, but these are grayed out, so they're not high priority inside of the search. And this is really useful for when you have lots and lots of files, you can search for just the project, which is what I have. So instead of showing me 17 different source files of an author, it just shows me the one project that I'm writing about that author. So let's say Ali Abdul, YouTuber, creator. If I want to do a video on Ali and I have loads of his videos in my Obsidian, I don't want to type in Ali and then all of his videos appear. I just want Ali and then my project to appear at the top. That's why I use the excluded search inside, or the excluded files inside of the quick switcher. I don't think there's anything else in here that I would want to change at the moment. I may come back to that. I may regret that decision. So yeah, so that's search. Slash commands, if you're familiar with Notion, this may help you because when you turn it on, it lets you go slash and then it brings up what's called the command palette. Now, I personally don't use the slash commands because I'm used to using Control P and it does the same thing. It gives you the same options which you can search through. So I don't use the slash commands because I use Control P instead, but it's an option. The slides turns markdown files into a presentation. I very rarely use that. Sync, I have it turned on. I'm not going to turn it on in this vault because then it will conflict with all my other sync vaults. So if you pay for Obsidian Sync, use it. You would want to turn this on. If you don't pay, then obviously don't turn it on. The tags view is what we have in the top left right now. That shows the tags as mentioned earlier. The templates is what I'm going to be using. That's why I made the templates folder. The unique note creator, never found a use for it, so don't use it. Similar to the random note, don't use it. The word count, I am actually going to disable because I don't use this word count. And this is where, as I mentioned at the start, those beginning with Obsidian, stick with the word count. It does what you need it to do. Those that want to go a little bit further, maybe you want to use a community plugin because it's better, as the plugin's called, better word count. So I'm going to turn that off now, but if you just want to use Obsidian straight out of the box and don't want to do any community plugin work, then keep it on because it does what it needs to do. It shows you the words and the characters in the file. And workspaces, I actually keep turned off. Previously, I had it on, but now I keep it turned off. Community plugins, we're not going to touch for now, but I'm going to turn it on just so you can see everything that's going on. And let's go to backlinks. So we've done with that one. What we want to do here is actually in a folder specified below. If you do use a canvas, I would highly recommend having a folder for the canvas files, partly because it's easier to find them again, but also because then they don't get they don't clog up the rest of your vault. So I'm going to make a new folder. Again, this is one of those things that if you use the canvas, make the folder. If you don't use the canvas, don't use the folder. Most people won't need the canvas folder, so don't. Do you only get history if you buy sync? No. Great question, Martin. No. So that's in the file recovery, which is here. I'll go through that in a second. So that's the canvas folder there. If we're in canvas, specified below, and we go to canvas. I'm going to keep all of these default because I don't change them. Command palette, that's the / command or the control P to bring up all of those hotkey menus. The new pinned comment, command, if there is something you do regularly, so create new file, you can pin it to the top. I personally don't use this because I find it quick enough to search. So if I want to pin, for example, I can toggle pin and it's there. Something else that I use a lot is hotkeys. So every command inside of Obsidian, so everything that appears in this command palette can be added to a hotkey. So if we type in pin, toggle pin, I can push plus, and then for me it's Control-Shift-P. That's what I use to pin. Now I don't even need to go to the command palette. I don't need to go Control-P, type pin, and then go for the pin. Or if I was to, just for demonstration purposes, if I was to pin the command pin, if I push P, you can see it's pinned to the top of the command palette. That was probably a really bad example because I've just said pin a lot. But now I can, if I show you what that does, if I was to click it, you see that pin at the top? That's what it's done. If I click it, I can now Control-Shift-P, and the hotkey does the pinning for me. So I don't need to go to the command palette, which is why I don't use the pins inside of the command palette, because I use hotkeys instead. For IT guys who use VS Code, very popular code editor, Control-P is very common, but it calls for recent files menu. Oh, okay, yes, I use VS Code every once in a while, but not often enough to know all of the all of the hotkeys. One of the things I like about Obsidian is you can make the hotkey anything you want. So if it does conflict with something else, then you can. So for example, Alt-C on my keyboard is opening up Morgan. You can see there's my calendar. So I don't have any hotkey with Alt-C, otherwise it will conflict with that one, which is one of the reasons I like the hotkeys in Obsidian. So that's the command palette. To answer Martin's question about file recovery, this is the history. Now, even though the default is 5 and 7, I actually have, so the snapshot here is when it takes a snapshot of the files. So if there's been a change to the file, it'll say, hey, there's a snapshot, and that happens every, in this case, 5 minutes. I keep it to 5 minutes, but the history length, so how many days they are kept for, I actually have this massive. I have the 600 for 2 years. So I have never really needed it. I've never seen a speed decrease because of it. And I haven't seen any issues reported about it. And what this lets me do is just keep all of the snapshots of all of the files for over 2 years. Wait, no, almost 2 years. Long enough. I don't want to have to try and do mental maths right now. So what you can do is then search for the file. So let's go to project 1. I don't have many files, but we've got here. That's the original version. That's the next version, and there will be another snapshot that comes in 5 minutes. This was created. This is the first snapshot, and then maybe, do I have an older file? A homepage one. Yes, there we go. So we've got 10, 16, and 21. So you see there's the snapshot. So that's the history. And this vault doesn't have Obsidian sync, but it still has the history of the files. And if you want, if you go to the top, you see show changes. There's the changes between the files. So this one, there was nothing. This one, we got rid of the blank space at the top, and the project one was added in. And this one was just me changing stuff around. So that's the history there. That's always there. So you can't lose things. I have spoken with clients and they're like, I might break stuff. Even if you do delete a file, it will still be there somewhere. That will actually, that's a good point. Deleted files will move to trash, move to the system trash by default. You can move it to an Obsidian trash folder. I wouldn't bother because then there's a second place to look. I would highly recommend not pushing permanently delete, because that's just a recipe for disaster. So file recovery, that's where your history is. Note composer, I wouldn't bother changing any of this unless you're going to go deep into it. I don't bother. Page preview, we've gone through this. Quick switcher, show existing files and show attachments. If you don't want to see all of the images in the search, which if you type P, for example, into the quick switcher, it's going to show all of your pasted images, which is not going to be fun. So if you Control O and then type P, it's going to show all of those pasted images. One of the reasons I have the images as an excluded inside of the quick switcher. But I personally don't want to see all of these images because I'm never searching for an image. I'm searching for the file the image is in. So for context there, if I go to this image and I go to, it's not actually in a file, that's great. Let's put it in a file, shall we? Let's just write pasted image. So what I've done is exactly what I did with project 2, is I did square bracket, and then linked the file, because the image is just a file. That's the other image file. Let's link the other one, that one. So you can rename these. I will do that in a second. But now when I go to this image file, you can see it's linked inside of project 1. So when I go to the quick switcher, I will go project 1 and then find it, and then it will show the images rather than me searching for the images. So when I go to the settings, I have this turned off because I don't want to see all of those images. If we go into this image file, this is, I don't know, let's call it tab bar. I can go to the top and I can click, and now I can change the name, or I can right click and go rename file inside of the tab, or I can go to the files and then right click and rename from there. I normally do it at the top here, so I'm going to triple click to highlight everything. Pinned comment, update links and files, always update please. And what that's doing is updating all of the links in, so project 1, this has now been updated. If I didn't click it, it would still say pasted image and then whatever that number was. I didn't pay attention to it. So update, and now that's a setting. You don't have to do it again. So now we've got the pinned comment linked and we have the pasted image linked. To show the image, you put an exclamation mark at the start. And that actually works the same with the link here, project 2. So if I want to, instead of having the page preview, I can go before there and then go exclamation mark, and now it's showing project 2. If I actually open that up, so I can click on the link, I'm going to middle click with my mouse wheel to open it up in a new tab, drag it over to the right. We've got project 2, and then we've got project 1. So project 1 file, project 2 file, but inside of project 1, we have an internal link, an internal outgoing link to project 2, and the exclamation mark is embedding it, so it's showing it. And when I, let's say, add more text, you can see it's adding more text because it's showing the file in, so it's showing project 2 inside of project 1. You can't edit project 2 in project 1. So I can't left click in and edit. It's just a show, it's a window. Same as the image, it's just a window, it's embedding. There are plugins that let you do things like this, but there are pros and cons with those plugins, and it adds complexity that I personally wouldn't recommend unless you're very, very familiar with Obsidian. And I never use the embeds. And when I say never, I mean never, as in don't. The only time I'm embedding something is with an image, and that's because I can then see the image. When we spend more time creating setups than actually using... Yes, lots of people create lots of time making setups. Hopefully I'm explaining things as well as creating this setup rather than me just creating the setup. because the setup is literally, I mean, it was done within a couple of seconds. Files done, files and folders and done. So that's that one. Existing files. Explaining the, so with, when I started, I used bracket bracket, let's go project 3. And you see there's no match found. This bit, as I showed you earlier, it's not a project. It hasn't been created. It's not a file. It doesn't exist. If I go to the quick switcher and type in project 3, you can see it's appearing in the quick switcher. So we've got the plus icon to say it's not created yet, but I can create it here if I want. If I want all of those potential files to show, then they will show. If not, then they won't. Never mind my previous comment regarding backlinks. I've just switched to Obsidian this week. Thanks for your wonderful video task. Oh, okay. Yes, links is one of those things that if you're not familiar with a writing tool like it, then it's very difficult to get suddenly used to it. And I will get to a use case or a more practical use case later on in the video. So I personally turn show existing only. So now we've got the project 3. If I go to the quick switcher and type in project 3, it doesn't exist, or it doesn't exist, and because the quick switcher can't see that it doesn't exist as well. If I was to create it, then it would exist. So I keep that one off. So it doesn't matter how many of these I have somewhere. If I've use case, if I have the file, let's create the file to actually show you this in action. I'm going. I don't have a script for this, but I'm going off script if I had one. So if I have a project 3 file and it's linked inside of project 1, if I delete this project 3 file, so right click and delete the file, now it's gone. But now I have this lingering link to something that doesn't exist, which means every time I've linked a file somewhere and then delete it, I could have lots of different versions of that file. And what that does inside of the quick switcher is it clogs it up. And because I've done this, I've used Obsidian for 3+ years, I have lots of links to files that no longer exist, have been deleted, merged, or just lost in some way of plugins and configurations and things. So my quick switcher can get blocked up by all of these non-existing files, which for me is frustrating. So I keep it turned off, just as a heads up. And hopefully that actually showed you a practical example of why I have that turned off. My hope was to get away with tags and folders, but I already see how easy and useful links in Obsidian are. Yeah, I actually don't think tags are as useful as links. I use tags sparingly, and the only reason I'm using tags is for some really no-codey integration thing that most people will never need to use. It's a really specific use case. So I personally don't use tags, and the folders, again, even though they're here, I don't really use the folders. They just sit like this in my sidebar, and I look for something. So Control O, project 1, I push enter, and I open it. So if I close that down, that was anticlimactic. So I go to project 2, enter, I'm now in project 1. If I want to go to project 2, I go to project 2. If I want to search through all of the things that I'm looking for, I will come to my home page, and let's go and link those two together. Let's say we're doing projects here, and then this one is smaller projects. Let's say that's project 3. What I will do is, if I'm looking or browsing through different projects I've done, I will come into my home page and just go using the outline plugin, which I'm going to reorder. I will jump down to smaller projects or go to projects and then just look through the files if I can't find them inside of the quick switcher or inside of the search, which is extremely rare because I'm working inside of the files. So I don't use tags. I don't really use folders either to find things. It's just they need to be stored somewhere. So I have a folder. That's, I mean, my project folder has almost 700 files in. My sources folder has close to 7,000 files in. I don't want to open that and have to search through all of that. That's a pain. Yes, so that is that one. And then templates. Template folder location, that's all I need to do for the settings, is select the templates folder. So now we've selected the templates folder. Oh, let's drag that sources in there. How I would then use this is the basic setup. There's no community plugins, there's no fancy work. This is all just core Obsidian. Is the way I would work is exactly as I have it set up here. Excuse me. I have project 1, project 2, and then project 3. When I want to make a new project, I would right click, new note. And when I have the new note, I will then title it whatever the project is. So let's say project 4. Now we have templates. So I'm going to insert template. And at the moment, there's no file in there. So what we want to do is create a template for the project. So right click, new note, project template. That way that I know what it is, it's there. And just as a reminder, if I go to the quick switcher and type in, oh, actually, if I go project, so you can see there, project is there, but it's grayed out because it's the template folder. That's what I excluded. So it's always down the bottom. Templates I want to see when I'm editing them, but I don't want to see them when I'm searching for all the projects. So every project, I'm going to have an introduction and then research. Actually, oh, I'm using a hotkey that I don't have in this vault. So I'm going to go hotkeys. This is, I guess, a tip while I'm going. Line, move line down. I'm going to plus. I use control down key and then move line up and then control up key. So now when I've got my cursor on the research, I push control up and it moves that line up or it moves it down. I do that a lot, and you can highlight multiple pieces of text at once. So text. If I drag it, so I'm highlighting all of the text and then move it all up, move it all down. It's another way of moving blocks of text at once. So now that we've got that inside of here, we've got the research, we've got the introduction, and actually let's go sources. Let's actually do it as I would. So we've got sources and then script, introduction, and then we want list. So the 2 hash is heading 2, so it's smaller. You can see the outline is coming together. And what I will do is inside of this project template with the new project is I will click the button, insert template, project template, and now we have all those headings in. So to go back through that again, if I want to make a new project, right click, new note, project 5, and then go over, push the template button, enter. And of course, we can turn it into a hotkey. So template, insert template, and I'm going to use control colon. Oh, that conflicts with, okay. This is the template, this is the hotkey I use. So how I would troubleshoot this, we have a conflict. I can either find the conflict, which is the insert templates, this hotkey, yeah, oh, there it is. Duh. So this one conflicts, and that conflicts with the one all the way down there. So you could scroll down and find it, or if you've got lots of other things, you can search for just that hotkey. So now I'm looking for just the hotkey, and I'm going to exit out of there. So now inside of project 5, if I delete all of that template, I can use the hotkey, control colon, and enter to add the project template. What I now want to do inside of the homepage is add the project into the homepage somewhere. So that project is under the smaller projects, and project 4 is also under the smaller projects. Is that a plugin when you're moving text from one side to the other? One side to the other? I'm not sure what you mean by one side to the other. When I'm moving text up and down, so up and down like this, that's a hotkey inside of Obsidian, not a plugin. So that's the hotkey, and then line, move line up and down. That's what I went through a second ago. When you say moving text from side to side, yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Let me know inside of the comments. Haynes, I think that's how you pronounce the name, or the user tag. So inside of the project's template, split maybe. Yes, like, oh, okay, yes, like that. Yeah, so that was me using the line up, line down. The split is, thank you. There we go. Good. Right, so that is the projects. And inside of the homepage, we've got all of those linked, and project 3 doesn't actually exist. You see 1, 2, there's no 3, it doesn't exist, 4 and 5. And then if we have sources, so let's say we are making, we're writing something from a video. Let's create a source template as well. And you'll want a link to wherever it is, a URL link. now inside of the source, I can do the exact same thing. I right click, new note, create a source, and then add the template, source template, then whatever the link is, and then write in points, 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 more points. Ooh. And all of these are going to be your highlighted points. So you can, what I do with YouTube videos is I right click and then copy link to timestamp and then paste that inside of Obsidian, so it jumps me back to the timestamp in a YouTube video. When it's in a blog, I'll use Zotero, which I'll go through in a bit. And then when it's an article, I just have the link at the top and then just write the words down if it's a short blog post, because I don't need to find anything. I can just highlight it, Control F, and find whatever it is. Did you miss explanation on how to with or avoid dead links in project 3? YouTube is giving me some really annoying view. Give me a second. Yeah, YouTube's giving me a really annoying view and I can't see what the word is. Is that delete? So when it comes to avoiding dead links or projects, inside of the homepage, if, for example, project 3 is no longer, I don't remove the dead links, as you saw, or I don't avoid them unless I see them inside of a file. So, there we go. How to deal with, right? Yeah, so as mentioned previously, when the file gets deleted, obviously I don't want them all to appear in the quick switcher, so that's that. In the homepage, if they no longer exist, I can see it in the homepage and then I just delete it, so Control D and it's gone. The dead links inside of files then doesn't impact me, and I'm not going to go through and clean up all of my files because that's just a pain in the bum. So I don't actually do anything. I can't read that language. I don't want to guess Spanish or Portuguese, but that's what it looks like. So if someone could translate that to English, that would be great. Sorry. But yeah, so with dead links, apart from the homepage and me just deleting it from the homepage or me seeing the dead link in a file somewhere, I just don't touch them. Right, yeah, so project 4, let's say we're using the source that we've got. So this is the source, we've got all the points. Drag that over there. Inside of this one, we want, let's open project 4. That was Control O to quick switcher, and because it automatically defaults the recent file, project 4 was at the top. So in project 4, I will then link, so square bracket, and source 1. So now I have a link between the project and the source. And as a reminder for those that are either joining now or forgot from earlier, the way I personally categorize a source from a project is a source has one source. It's one link. It goes to one piece of content. It said something about not being able to see subtitles. Subtitles is YouTube. I don't know whether YouTube does live subtitles. If it doesn't, then you probably need to wait for replay, I think. But yeah, I can't do subtitles automatically, unfortunately, and I can't speak Spanish or Portuguese or whatever language it is. So yeah, I think replay may be the best option there. Yeah, so we've got the sources, and then the project is when there's more than one source. So I'm going to add a source. Again, this is completely vanilla Obsidian. Right click, new note, source 2, and then use the hotkey, go source template, and then link, ... whatever it is. Point, I'm just going to copy this because I don't want to have to write all that out again. Paste, and then go back. So now we want source 2. Yeah, there we go. So now we've got source 1 and source 2 both inside of project 4. And now the way I would work inside of this is then, I missed a heading. So I guess live editing here. I now know in the template I want to have a points heading there. So I'm going to middle click on my mouse to open up as a new tab. Underneath, hash points, and then let's just add a little bit of space in there. So, oh wait, let's close that down. So we've got source 1, source 2, and underneath points, I will then bring in the points that are relevant. So I'm going to close down the homepage for a second. I will pin, so that's Control-Shift-P, that's the hotkey I made earlier, pin the file. So now when I click on source 1, source 1's open. If I click on source 2, it switches to source 2. Click on source 1, switch to source 1, source 2, source 2. So what I can do is I can click on source 1, go through the points and see which ones are relevant. So some of them may be useful, some of them not, and I literally copy and then paste. So Control C, Control V, and paste. And what I will do, so I know where the reference came from, is just link back to the file again. So we've got source one there. So I've got this points, which is this one. So let's say points things and things. This point comes from source one. The reason I do a copy and paste is because let's imagine all these other points are completely useless and I don't want them inside of the project, this project at least. If I go to source 2 and this points thing is actually really similar to this one, I can copy that and then paste that underneath and then say source 2. And when I'm reading through these points, either it'll happen straight away because I'm going through these points one after the other, or I recognize when I'm going through and writing the article or the essay or whatever it is, actually, these things are basically the same thing. So I will reword, paraphrase, whatever this is, I will just delete that, and now I've got source 1 and source 2. So in academic referencing, I now have 2 sources for 1 point. Now I have synthesis, what you would want in academic writing. If you're not academic writing, then it's just good practice to have more than one source to back up the claim, argument, point that you're trying to make. So that's then how I would go through, and I will do this and do this all the way down. So I'll have a collection of things. Let's just copy this again and then paste that down. And then let's say source 1, let's copy and then paste that down there and copy there, paste and paste. So it could look something like this with, as you would imagine, many other sources and points. And as you can see, source 2 is now linked to project 4, so I know what source is linked to. But also, when I go to another project, let's, for example, say I'm writing another similar essay. So it's a similar topic on points on something, I don't know, productivity, time management, productivity, task management, and this point is relevant to both. Getting things done. And this is in here. Let's go source 2. Now I know that this source has been used in 2 different projects, which is why I have the source file individual and why I use links, because now I know what project this source has been used in. But also I can come from the project to the source, which is where when you're writing multiple projects, write essays, articles, videos, whatever, about something, if you've got an old essay, so when I've written an old essay or an article about something, I can go back to it, look at the sources, find the source and go, oh, maybe that was a pillar source or a pillar piece of research or meta-analysis or systematic review. I can click onto it, find it, and then see all the other related projects that I've actually used. And this for me actually is helpful in isolating what is a useful paper and what isn't, because some of them will be referenced in more than one project. So that is another example of where the linking or the copy and pasting linking from sources to projects helps me out while I'm writing. So that is the sources, that is the projects. Yeah, so that is essentially how I work out without any community plugins. This is just core Obsidian, and I will work. So what project was I? Oh, it was on 4, wasn't it? We were working with, yeah. And once I've got all of these inside of here, I will then, actually that's a good point, I could do this bit. You can right click and split down the right, which has the same file up. So you can be going through, if we collapse that, you can be going through the points and writing your introduction at the same time. So this is the same file. So say I want this one, so I'm going to cut, and then that's Control X and then paste. I've now brought this point from the just collection of points down to my introduction, and this is a sentence about the thing. Oops. The thing, thank you. And you can see it's down there. So I can be going through my points whilst writing at the same time. And this is how I work. And I actually add a hotkey to that. So where I did the split right, I add the hotkey. So we go settings, hotkey, split right, I push plus, and for me it's shift and then the right arrow key. So if I middle click, now when I'm on project 4, I go shift right, and then I can go to introduction. then shift right, maybe I want to go to the sources at the top. So I can then have the same file up multiple times with sources, with other pieces of research, with other projects, all on one screen, going backwards and forwards between using links. So what's going on in that one, what's going on in that one, so I don't lose context of where it is that I'm at. So when I am writing, I can just go straight to whatever part of the article is, rather than having to scroll up, then scroll down, then scroll up, and scroll down, which I had to do in Word, which was a real pain. Do you use Workspaces? Not anymore, no. You said something about, different modes, research, create, refine, etc. No, I don't. And the main reason I don't use Workspaces is because the workspaces save the workspace you're in, so it works for a project. So when I was writing my book, for example, I say writing my book, writing my NaNoWriMo book, the project I did last November, I had a workspace for that because there was a setup I had. But most of the time while I'm working, I'm going to have a different project up and different sources up, and a workspace saves the files that are open. So if I go back to my homepage, if I'm working on a project and I say I want to work on project 1, I could load the workspace and it go to project 1. But now if I want to work on project 2, I can't load the same workspace. I would need to change the workspace, which for me is just a pain. So I don't use them. That's why I don't use them, because unless it's a long-term project that I'm using over months, I won't bother. And even if it is, so one project I've been working on for the last 3 months, a video essay about ecological psychology, is because it's in my homepage, I can either go to my homepage and then click on there, or if I want to quickly access it, I can just bookmark the project in the side pane, in the bookmark side pane, and then just navigate to it from there, and then from there work out what it is that I want to do, because most of the time inside of a workspace I'm going to have different sources, different research files, different projects up. It's never, almost never the same. So I'm going to remove that. If you have any questions about this core basic setup, let me know. But now I'm going to get to the community plugins bit, which is where the fun begins in Obsidian. Right. The first one that I personally would use, anyone that's using academic research would use the Zotero plugin, the Zotero integration plugin. I've done a couple of videos on it. In the YouTube section, I'll put a link in the top right so you can see the videos I've done on it. I'm going to very quickly go through the install process and this sort of stuff because it's already been said in a previous video, but you can follow along. So I'm downloading the PDF utility. Database, definitely Zotero. Import format, I want to add one because I want to be importing things. The output path, I'm going to put inside of my sources folder, making sure the capitals are exactly the same. So now I have a sources file that goes in. The images is going to go to the sources images folder, and I don't want it to be in a folder, I just want it to show me the thing. Then template file. I now need a Zotero template file. If you're on YouTube, you should see a link in the description or a link pinned to the top of the chat, and there's the various template files that you can use. I don't have a template file in my Obsidian right now, but I do have one inside of the folder, so I'm going to quickly bring that up. You should be able to see it. This is the one that I have in the download. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can see that's the actual vault we're in. If we have a look, Canvas project sources, Canvas project sources. So the vault in Obsidian is the actual folder on my computer. So if I cut, so Control C, go to the live vault, and then go to my templates folder. There's the two template files that I made earlier, and paste. Now the Zotero template is in my folder, just like magic. I'm going to minimize that because I'll be back there in a minute. Now I have the Zotero template. For you, it will be a download. It's just a markdown file, and then put it in whatever way works. Zotero template, and now that is all set up. Yay! So now inside of the settings, just for somewhat completeness, I will go Zotero import. For me, Control-Shift-Z, and now when I push Control-Shift-Z, it comes up and says, hey, you want to go to Zotero, but I don't actually. So let's go away. There we go. Oh, no, it didn't go away. It stayed where it was. Thank you. So that's how I would use Zotero. I would then search in Zotero. It brings in the file, and I'm just going to say go to other videos for that because they're like half hour, 40 minutes long, and I don't want to spend time doing the same thing. But yeah, so the Zotero integration plugin, that's what I would use for bringing in points from Zotero, and it works exactly the same because the source will come in here. It's just going to look a little bit different, and then the same process as explained earlier. I have the source up on the right, the project on the left, and then go through and add things in. The next one that I'm going to add, which because I have one community plugin, I would highly recommend, is Plugin Update Tracker. This I think is highly underrated. I forget to check for updates of community plugins. It's not something I regularly want to go and do, and I don't know when updates happen. I don't want to have announcements pinging to me all the time either. So I use this plugin instead. And what this plugin does is, I don't change any of these settings. You can. But what this does is down the bottom right, can you see that? You should be able to see that. But it's a plug. And when I hover over, it says all plugins are up to date because there's a green tick. If there's a new update, it will say it will have a red number and then 1, 2, 3, however many plugins there are. So whenever you see a red plug, you know you need to update something. I much rather do that than come into community plugins and then click check for updates every time because I don't want to have to do that. So if you have one community plugin, the second one should be Plugin Update Tracker, in my humble opinion. Now, for the next one, I'm going to install Better Word Count. And Better Word Count is just a way of highlighting words. Options, don't need any of that. The core plugin will count all of the words, but what it won't do is when you highlight words, it won't count it. That's the main feature I use Better Word Count for. So you can see down the bottom, 2 words, 13 characters. There's 2 words, 13 characters. The core plugin doesn't do that. They are what I would say are the fundamental plugins for the academic researcher that wants to use Obsidian. Better Word Count, just so when you're writing things, you know roughly what the word count is. Plugin Update Tracker, so the Zotero integration plugin doesn't break. They're the main ones. So that's, I guess, stage 2 of the setup. Next, stage 3 is where we start combining a few other plugins. The main plugin that speeds up the workflow here will be the Quick Add plugin. Install. And it'll take a little bit longer because it's a much bigger plugin. And what this lets us do is, instead of having to go right-click, new note, then add the template, and then right-click, new note, add the template, instead of having to do that, we can do it all very, very quickly. So what we want to do is new project, and we can either say capture, macro, multi, or template. I'm going to use a template, so add the choice. And then new source, add the choice. And what I actually want to do, because I know I'm going to do this, is have a folder, sort of quick adds. And what this is called is a multi. And what this lets you do is group them together. So we've got 3 different choices right now. And when I click the lightning, it does that command thing. So it lets you add a hotkey. If I click quick, you can see there's the new multi, there's the new project, and there's the new source. At the moment, they're not going to do anything because we haven't set anything up. So we go new project, template path. That's the template that we had to start with. If we type in template, we want the project template and new file format. Yes, file name. We want it to create it in the folder because we were right clicking on the project folder. But what I want it to do is not add it blank, is add it in the project folder for me. So I want to write the name of a project and the file automatically be added in the projects folder, and I want it to automatically have the template. So those headings that I mentioned earlier, file name format. Let's add that in. So now let's just turn it off. If we go to the command palette, Control P, and we go new project, you see it's highlighting new proj because that's what I've typed in. So you don't have to type in the whole thing. Electricity plug looks misleading. I agree. I agree. It can look misleading. Could not create file in. Why could it not create file in there? Is that because it doesn't? Here we go. Lovely live troubleshooting. Okay, that's because, yeah. So what I did for those unsure, what happened there was I clicked on new file format, so it was looking for me to have a file format, but I didn't actually put anything in there, so it wasn't sure what was going on, so I removed it. That was me thinking too far ahead of myself. So Control P, project, new project, and it's given this window. And the window says, hey, what do you want it to be called? So where are we? Project 6, I think. Project 6. And when I push enter, it's now created Project 6 inside of the project folder with the template. So what I can now do is turn it into a hotkey. We go hotkey and go new project and Control N, because that's what I use. Let's go and Control N, create new note. Well, I don't want to create a new note, I want to create a new project. So now when I push on my keyboard, Control N, project 7, enter, I now have a quick way to create new projects. And I can do the same thing for sources. So let's go settings, go to quick add, go to the new source, add in the source template is there. Create in the folder. We want to add it in the sources folder. So add, nothing else is going to be different. Let's just double click that to make sure it's updated. So P source, new source, source, where are we? 3? Yeah, there we go. And then source 3 has been created with the template. However, we're at a crossroads because when I push Control N, it goes straight to projects. But I might not necessarily want to have a project. And you could have a hotkey per thing. So Control N for new project, Control M for source, Control, I don't know, K, L, J, whatever you want. But what I prefer to do is use this folder, and I can drag them into the new multi-folder. And oops, let's drag it in. And then drag that one in. You can see them moving over to the side. So now when I click it, it's folded. So if I close it, open it, we go to hotkeys and let's remove it from there and add that to the quick add new, Control N. So now when I push Control N, it brings up the option of source or project. So if I go on my keyboard, Control N, and then type P, I now have a new project, enter, then I can name it Project 8, enter. Now I have Project 8 all at my keyboard, which makes adding essays way easier, or essays, articles, blogs, videos, whatever project it is, way easier because it's quickly adding things. And it's the same with sources. I use this more for sources than projects. So Control N, S, enter, source, where are we, 4, enter. Now Control O to quick switch. If we go 4 and then S4, there we go. It's there, enter. Now I'm to the source 4. So that was the quick switcher to go to it. So let's Control O, S4, sources 4. That was down arrow key, enter, opens up the file. Want to add another one, S, enter, source 5, and you then get very quick at adding new files. Hence quick add. So that is the quick add plugin. Then what else? Let's just have a quick check. Yes, okay. That's the quick add. Now, when it comes to finding these things, finding the sources, finding the projects, this is where Obsidian can get a little bit complex if you go in certain directions. So as mentioned earlier, I have projects and sources, and as you can see, they get big quick. So when we go to the homepage, how do I know what project is here and what isn't here? That's the one that we're missing because we've got 1, 2, 3 doesn't exist, 4 and 5, but 6, 7, and 8 aren't linked in the homepage. So how do I not forget? How do I make sure that I don't forget whatever it is inside of this homepage? You could be clever with a quick add and make it automatically add a link to the homepage. Or you can use a data view query. Either of them work. I use a combination of the two. I'm going to show you the data view query one, then maybe the quick add one if you want. But I'm going to use the data view query one because it gives me an opportunity to show you data view, because I feel like it is another plugin that is worth installing if you're going to query lots of things inside of Obsidian, and I do use this for surfacing sources as well. So enable options, and I don't change any of this. I keep it all the same. And data view does get very complex. I do have a video which I'll share, a link in the top right, once I've done the replay and I can add cards. And what I can do now is Control P code block, so I can insert a code block, or the alternative is 3 backticks and it as a code block. Now I can type data view and I can query, search any file, anything inside of Obsidian. And what I've got now is a table view, because I've said table, and it's showing me all of the files inside of Obsidian. So there's nothing in the canvas folders, but it's showing me everything else. And even though this is great, I don't want to see everything. What I really want to see is the projects that are not in the home page. So what I want to do is I want to change the file because I don't want it to say file. So I'm going to say without ID, and then I'm just using reference here so I don't mess things up, as project inbox. So what I've done is I've removed the file column, and then I've added a new file column called file link. So I've just removed it and then re-added it, but I've called it as project inbox. So it's going to do the exact same thing when I come out and show it, but it's called project inbox instead of file. That's what I've done. That's all I've done. It's still showing me the same stuff. What I now want to do is say, where does it come from? And yes, I am using a reference because I don't want to have to troubleshoot as I go. I'm looking for files from the projects folder. So from projects, yes, I've spelled that right. And now it's showing me all of the files in the projects folder rather than the sources. So that's the first step. Now we're just showing the projects, but I don't want to see the projects that are already linked on the home page because they're already linked. I can already find them. I want to see the projects that are not linked inside of the home page. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cheat and copy this from my reference. Is I'm going to add what's called a where clause, which is basically a filter. It's saying where this is true or this is not true. I'm going to delete that so it doesn't render. Move that line up. That's using that hotkey from earlier. So what this is saying is where it does not, that's what the exclamation mark means, does not contain a link. So that's an in link. That's these links that we're talking about. So if a project, so if project 7 doesn't have an in link to .file name, so if project 7 doesn't link to homepage, then show it. So you see it's homepage. Yeah. So if project 7 doesn't have an outgoing link to homepage, then show it. Data view. We've got project 7, project 8, project 6, and homepage, because homepage doesn't link to itself. So if we go to project 7 now, see project 7 is showing because there is no, there's no in link, there's no backlink to that homepage. If you don't need the full power of data view, you can do this in standard Obsidian. I don't think you can do this in standard Obsidian because you can't query the links in standard Obsidian. If you can, do let me know. But yeah, because inside of standard Obsidian, I don't think you can add this at all. If you can, let me know, but I don't think you can query file and links. So now when I come into other projects, bracket, and then let's say project 7, now there is going to be an in link inside of project 7 to the homepage because there is an outgoing link inside of the homepage, which means it's no longer in the inbox because I've added it to other projects. And practically speaking, what this means is when you add any new project and you're doing whatever it is, when you come back to the homepage, you remember, oh wait, I haven't put this in a section. So whenever you go to a section of, let's just call this productivity, and let's call this psychology. If we have psychology projects all together, and I know project 6 is a psychology project, I can come down and say, okay, this is project 6, and it's in there. Once it's been created, and now it's going to disappear from the inbox once it's been updated like that. that's how I use my project inbox, so I don't lose any essays, articles, or videos. They either show up in this query at the top that you paste into your file. You get that query by going to search in the side, search for query tag, and saying copy search results. Yeah, but I'm not using any tags, so for those referenced, I'm talking to the person inside of chat, Sanya. I'm not using any tags, so if I search for a tag inside of the Obsidian query, it's not going to show me anything because there's nothing tagged. So I don't know how that would show me the project inbox because it's a link. And I don't think you can search for in links, but correct me if I'm wrong. Just put the syntax inside of the chat so I can paste it inside of the search query, because you can see we've got tag, line, section, file, and path, but there's no link in there. Right, so that is how I would search for the projects, and then the sources you can do in a similar way. I'm going to copy and paste the query from my reference, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Not links, unfortunately, but if you auto tag, you're re-replicating the function. Yeah, so as mentioned, if you tag things, then yes, you could use it, but that wouldn't work though. You'd then have to. No, I don't. Maybe we're getting conflicting, but I don't think that would work, because if you have a tagged file, you still wouldn't be able to work out whether it's linked or not. Because if I've got a tag inside of project 7, it's not going to show up yes or no whether it's linked or not, because you'll be searching for yeah. So but if you're going hashtag projects, hashtag sources, that's going to show you everything, and I don't want to see everything. I don't want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 inside of the tags or the search. I want to see only the ones that are not linked, because I don't want to see project 1 and 2 because I've got them linked. I only want to see the ones that I haven't linked. That's what I'm looking for, which is what the search doesn't do, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. So inside of this one, the sources, exactly the same thing, except it's called source inbox, and exactly the same thing, except, yeah, I'm providing that alternative. Okay, fair enough. So projects, and this one's sources, and the difference here is it's going to projects. So instead of looking for a file name homepage, I'm going to projects. So any source that is not linked to a project, and I'm limiting it to 10 because I don't want all of my sources to appear, because sometimes I delete things and they get lost, or they're not needed, but I want to keep them. So we've got source 3. If I go to source 3, let's pin that so we don't lose it. If I click on source 3 isn't linked to a project. So if I go to project 1 and say there was really information from source 3, now there is a backlink inside of source 3, and so it's going to disappear inside of my source inbox. As I mentioned, this is more complicated use of Obsidian, and what this lets me do is when I add a new source, I know where the source has been used inside of a project. So the project being a piece of research. This project 1 piece of research now using source 3, and what else was it using? Source 1 and 3. There you go. So that's how I would then inbox for sources and projects that haven't been linked in some useful way anyway. Sorry, no worries. Derail away. Right, so I think that covers that one. Yes. So that is the complicated version of my flow. The next stage, as it were, of all of this, which gets to where I'm at right now, and I'll share my vault in a minute. I wonder what memory and speed hit would be compared to pretty swift and small back installation. I don't speed hit, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, but I don't see any issues with speed. The only speed issues I have is when I don't have this limit and I show all of my sources that are not linked to a project, because maybe I delete a project and that has lots of sources in it. So all of those sources are still relevant, but I don't know what project they're going to link to. And I don't want to go through all of those sources all of the time. So I leave them in my inbox, and I don't want to have 400 different sources appearing. That slows down my file. So what I do, which is why I have this canvas right at the top, is I'm going to make a new canvas file. and I've tried using a file to keep track of all of my active projects, but it doesn't. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just there's better ways to do it. So I'm going to say query, and what I'm going to do is actually just add this file into the canvas. And what the canvas is, for those that don't know, is you can drag a blank card on and write text, and this works similar to a mind map. You can drag an entire file on, so let's say the home page, and now you can see the file inside of the canvas. Oops, inside of the canvas here. Or you can drag media in. So I'm sure we had images, but it's not going to show pasted. There we go. So that's one of the screenshots that I grabbed earlier. So I can delete that and delete that. And what I want to do, right click, is narrow to heading, and I don't have a heading. I'm so used to me having headings in here. So we're going to go inbox, project, and then down here we go source. So now I can go right click and narrow to heading, and now I can narrow to the project. So now we've got the project inbox, and then I'm holding control on my keyboard, left click, drag, drop. I can then right click, narrow to heading, source. Now I have my projects, my sources as inboxes, and then any of the active projects that I'm working on. There are, again, lots of different ways to do this, but what I would advise doing to start with is just saying, okay, these are active, so project 8 and project 7, they are my active projects, so they are here. You could do that inside of the bookmarks page at the top left, or the bookmarks panel at the top left, but I actually find having the canvas much more useful, and this is where I do all of my quick daily notes. Apologies for the dog downstairs, that's someone coming in the house. So when I double left click and drag down, this is how I then take quick notes. So I can come in here, hopefully the dog isn't too loud. If it is, let me know in chat. And then I'm adding quick note, new note, quick reference there. So all of this would be traditionally what people put inside of their daily note, but because I don't use daily notes, because once I've taken the note and I've used the note, it goes. This is, I guess, what you'd call the fleeting notes, and once I've used it, I will delete it. That is me, so I will then bookmark that, save, query, that goes to the top. This is normally my research file. So now what I will do is just a quick, I guess, run through of how I would work through a sort of a project, very sped up version. So imagine I'm browsing YouTube, I've found a video, Control N, S, enter, video source, and now I'm going to go to video source. I've gone into the quick switcher, and then video source is there. This is the link. That's a good point, that's a good note, I like that idea, great idea. And while I'm writing this, I think, you know what, this is a good project. So Control N, project, great idea project, enter, now carry on. So more notes, more points, good point, and then, oh, that's another video. I click on another video, Control N, S, enter, next video, then I go to the next video, so it's there, and then points, points, and then at this point I realize, you know what, inside of this one, and this one, so these 2 points are both related to a project I'm currently working on. So Control O, I'll go project 7, drag that over to the left. This point will then get brought in, so copy, paste inside of the list, bracket, bracket, next video. Then I will copy that, put it underneath the point. I will then go back to this video and go, actually, this one was also related, so I can put that in there, and I know this is going to be linked. So we've got video source in there, copy, paste, and this could be building up from past videos, or it could be a new video, and I will keep doing this until I've got to the end of my YouTube article blog space bit, and then go back to my homepage. Now back at my homepage, you can see Project 8. Well, there's that new great idea I came up with while I was doing this, so it's not forgotten, it's there. And I also know that source 4, source 5 are there, but video source isn't linked to anything. Why isn't video source linked to anything? Oh yeah, because we didn't actually link it to something. So again, this is me just why new source project via quick new does not jump to the link. It does link if you have it in the settings. I personally don't do that in the settings because most of the time when I'm doing it, so when we go Control N, enter new video there, I assume why does not jump to that link? Open. I assume you're referring to it not being here. It's because I have them as excluded, the sources as excluded, so they jump down. So if I come into files, excluded, manage, this one, so it's in sources. So if I was to get rid of this, save. Now when I go back to actually let's sort this by new to old, because I don't actually have names to these. It's now showing sources right at the top. I think that answers your question. Ability to jump to last document, recent document. I think that answers your question. So yes, so which one was in it? Homepage. What was I looking for? Me being derailed, this is exactly why I have these in boxes, because now I know what's going on. So new video and video source are not linked to a project. So that was, what was the other video that I had? I recently had, I linked something. Yeah, it's that one. It was going to project 7. So this one went to project 7, which was, did I link the same? No, I just didn't link it properly. Sources. Excuse me, Obsidian. What are you doing? Let me troubleshoot this. I saw the space, but I don't understand why the space is being an issue. Let's go back to my homepage. Is it working now? No. Interesting. I must have. I'm missing something. What am I missing? I mean, why after creating a new document you will not switch to it? I have to search for it. Oh, that's because in the quick switcher. Yes, so give me a second as to why this isn't linking. That should be, it was project 7, wasn't it? Project 7, let's pin that so I don't lose it. It's there. Let's just delete that and then go delete that. Video source. It should be there. What in the world? I've never seen this. Of course this happens when I'm live. Okay, let's come up here. Is there any spaces in that? Let's just change the name. See if that makes a difference. Yes, it did make a difference. So what was it getting confused by? I have no idea. Whatever I did, I fixed it. I've unintentionally fixed an issue that I didn't know I had. Okay, so now when I go back to the home page, yeah, it's not in the source inbox because it has been linked properly. So to answer your question in the chat, that's because inside of the quick add, when I go to here, it says open the created file. If I tick that on, now it's going to open it. So if I update, now when I go new source thing, now it's opening it up straight away. I personally don't use that because then I just end up having, as you can see, tons of tabs up, which I don't want to do. So I just search for them, quick switch for them instead. But yes, it's certainly doable. So yeah, so now going back to this workflow that I'm working through, somewhat sporadically. Wait, what project am I working on? Let's go back to the query. I'm working on project 7 and 8. So I will go to project 8. The questions that I'm speaking out loud is what I would be thinking as I'm working. So project 8 is what I'm working on. What sources was I covering? New source thing. So that's in there. New source thing and new video. So I know these two sources need to be gone through and they relate to project 8. That's why I consumed them, but I don't want to do that right now, so they're just in the list. Then the other project that I'm working on, so let's go back to the canvas, is project 7. I think I just closed that down. Yeah. And the other project I'm working on is here, so I can close these down, Control P. I want this one up in this tab. That's got the points across. These 2 points are both good. Let's say that's really good. That's actually enough for the video. We've got the video done, and then this project has been complete. How you say the project is complete is another ballpark entirely. What you could do is have another folder. You could have a property. So you know what, I'm not even going to bother going to properties. Or you can do what I personally do, which is put them as tasks inside of that homepage. So it's simple. I come in and I go, not Control Enter because that's not the hotkey in this vault. Go to the hotkeys. Is it checkbox? I think it's called. Yes, there it is. Toggle checkbox. So, oh, it's Control L. That's not what I want. Control Enter, which is the one. It is this one. So I'm going to get rid of that conflict. Control Enter. So now it's just a task. So I can say, I've done that project, or I've not done that project. And that's how I work with tasks inside of Obsidian. For those inside of chat that are listening, do you want to, question to you, do you want me to show you how I'm using the task plugin for this? I can as well. It wasn't, I guess, scheduled in as something that I was going to cover, but I can do. How was time? Yeah, I got enough time. Let me know in chat. I do recognize there is a bit of a delay, but that's how I would then say, yes, it's done, or no, it's not. I don't do anything more complicated than that. You can add properties, but I personally wouldn't bother because it adds more complexity into the vault, which I wouldn't want. So yeah, I'm just going to wait for chat. Actually, let's just clean this up a little bit. Close that down. I'll wait for chat to see if anyone in chat wants me to answer those. Actually, while I've got the time, I might as well do it. I might just answer my own question here and say, yes, I will do it. That also gives me an opportunity to show you how I use the tasks inside of the canvas as well. This is going way into the deep end for those that are listening or watching in now. I'll probably have to timestamp this and say, hey, caveat, it's possible to preview YouTube videos sourced. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by is it possible to preview the YouTube videos sourced. If you're saying preview it inside of Obsidian, you would need the downloaded video and then you can view it inside of Obsidian, but you'd need the YouTube download because obviously it's browser. It's based on the browser. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I will do the task plugin because I've got the time, and if you don't want to listen, you can obviously leave because it's, I mean, I'm not saying leave, but you don't need to watch, if that makes sense. Yeah, this is me just talking inane rubbish while I'm installing another plugin. If you're curious about this plugin, I went through it recently. I think it's 45-minute video about the task plugin. And I'm just going to use the default stuff where canvas file is stored on disk. Oh, so you can have it show, so let me just quickly copy the link. You can have it linked to, I've just copied the link to the live stream like this, and then play the video from canvas here. You could also do that inside of an Obsidian file. I'm not going to click play because it's the live stream, and then you just get like massive inception. So you can watch the video in Obsidian as long as it's connected, as long as you are connected to the internet and Obsidian can go to the browser. So yes, possible, but if you like to cover it, debating using it. Yes, Sanya. So I will cover the task plugin because as I've sort of babbled my way through, I think it might be useful, and it might actually show some use cases that will become relevant. I'm trying to be political here. It may become relevant in the near future for integrations that could be happening soon. Political probably wasn't the most accurate term, but like non-disclosure agreement, tasks, stuff, thing, you know, like, yeah. So I'm going to use the in progress status here, and I'm going to use the to-do status and the done status. I'm not going to bother with anything else, and I do use the cancel status here and there. Set created date on every added task. I'm going to leave that one off. I want to keep that on so I know when I've done something, and keep that on so I know when I cancelled something. I don't need that one. I don't need anything else. But I do want to change this because I don't want that appearing all the time because that's annoying. I don't like it. So now when I go to the home page, what I will do is inside of this project, so all of these are tasks, these are tasks, and Canvas file is stored in the Obsidian Vault folder like the notes markdown files. Yes, I have no idea how you pronounce that username, but yes, that is correct. It's just a normal file on your computer. That's why I said that the link to the live stream would work in the file or the canvas. Maybe that was me not being very clear. So apologies if that's the case. So the task plugin, as mentioned in previous video, we have the task. Is it done? Yes or no. It's possible to use metadata to create a field that allows a user to select multiple items from a list, but the list is dynamic and populated from a note. Martin, yes, you can. That is a great question. That is metadata menu, a plugin I've gone through extensively. I probably a separate video rather than now. Yeah, it is a separate video. I've done a video explaining metadata menu, so you can have a look for that on the channel. I personally don't use that anymore because I haven't found a use for it. But yes, it is doable, possible. Yeah. So with these projects, as I'm working with lots of projects, what I will do is with the task plugin say this one is due, let's say in 2 weeks, and that will add a date to the project. This one is due tomorrow, and this one, oops. Yeah, let's say this one is scheduled for today. Yeah, that'll do. And what I don't actually come into the projects to look at all of this information, because what I do is inside of the canvas, I now have one of these queries. So if I come in, I can go code block to, let's just do it that way. Make that bigger so you can actually see what's going on. So inside of this task query, I want to say not done, and now it's going to show me all of the tasks that are not done. Oh wow, that's a lot of stuff. Let's hide due date and hide schedule date. So there we go. So that's a little bit easier. So now I know I've got all of those tasks. This is just for temporary viewing. I'm going to push Control just to copy that. And what I will do is create a query for due things. So due, has due, or has due date. This is where, yeah, there we go. The syntax, I have to check the thing every once in a while. Just out of curiosity, do you use transclusions when writing your research paper? No. I did briefly mention that. I don't see the point because it's much easier if I come into this project, for example, it's much easier for me to middle click on my mouse and then drag it over and see the entire file where I can skip up and down the headings for a project than for me to come into here and then just have essentially a page inside of, or a file instead of a file. It's just completely useless, especially as I'm not, don't take this the wrong way for those people that do mini essays and atomic notes and stuff. I find them completely useless because there's not enough context, nuance, information, research in there for it to be a useful piece of information, for a useful file for my work. It's literally a paragraph inside of a file. So whatever file I link would be 4 or 5,000 words. I could transclude a heading, but if I'm transcluding a heading, then I'm narrowing in so much that I lose the context of the whole point. So to use a practical recent example, cognitive load theory, if I'm using dual coding from cognitive load theory and I transclude the dual coding heading, I'm missing the context from cognitive load and what it means to have cognitive load, which would be easier to search through if I have the file up and I can jump backwards and forwards between the headings than having 2 different versions of the transclusions inside of the file which I'm writing in. Yeah, hopefully that explains what it is that's going on. But yeah, usage-wise, Canvas linking to file can apparently. be done through metadata menu? Yes, it can. I have expressed that, but it's not great, and the file linking properties stuff can get a little bit nasty looking inside of the properties because you have brackets inside of the syntax, and it doesn't work as clean as it could do. But yeah, and then, hey Danny, I have tried looking for a way around a query a Boolean value true. Haven't found any yet. Even looked at the videos, but so query. What do you mean? I tried looking for a way to query a Boolean value true. Well, if you're looking for something that's true, just put the thing in. If you're querying in data view, it's just type the thing in. So if something is true, I don't have any properties as an example here, but you would just actually, yeah. So here, I mean, this is the tasks plugin syntax. Is there a due date? It says has due date. So this would be due date true, and then not is not true. Obviously, that would be a false. And inside of data view, it would just be the properties. So if this is me working on the fly here, say where status. So it's looking for a project. Actually, what was one of the examples there that would be showing anyway? Come out. So let's go project 8. So inside of project 8, I'm going to add something. Let's quickly go project 8, and then we want to, I'm going to go into the source mode to do this. 1, 2, 3, and status true. Let's go out of source mode. So you can see we've got status, it's true, and now you've got project 8 that's showing. So if we come into the code block, it's saying where status and it's true. So if we then tick that off, now it's false. This, when it updates itself, is now gone. Hopefully that answers your question. It's not a case of anything apart from just putting the actual property in there. Because if you were to go speech marks true, now it's looking for the actual text true, which isn't accurate because it's not a text true, it's the Boolean true. Hopefully that makes sense and that answers your question. Let's remove all of that and come back into the thing. Yes, thank you. So, there we go. Nice, good. Glad I could help. So let's delete that. Where are we at? There we go. Let's come back to, let's close that down. Come back to our tasks. So we've got not due, has due date, yes. And then we want group by, actually, yeah, group by due date. No, group by due. There we go. Yeah, I was trying to do it within the quotes. Thank you. There we go. So now what I have is, if I minimize that, is I have a due card of my project. So I know projects due Saturday and Friday. Then any project that isn't due will appear in my other query, project inbox, or just this one where it shows me everything. Or I can say not due date. Not due, maybe? Nope. This may be where I'm going. Is not due? Is not due date? Okay, you know what? I'm just going to go to the... actually, do I have it in my... I should have it in my query. Second... Actually, I think we're at the point of the video where I might just switch over to my vault. I think I might do that. Yes. I'm debating with myself, and yes, I'm going to do that because it's going to make life easier. So I'm going to drag this over. Now we're showing my vault. I don't have anything private in this vault, so everything that you've just seen, I'm just going to quickly run through and show you that yes, it is exactly what I use. Sidebar, there's the bookmarks, there's the tags, there's the, obviously this is in dark mode, not light mode, so if we go to the settings, appearance, it's in dark instead of light, and I've changed the color from purple to orange. So this is the home page inside of this one. So inside of this one, we have the home page and the queries. Inside of my vault, oh, that's Affinity that I had up earlier. Inside of my vault, I've got ES in a nutshell. At the moment, dashboard's pinned, but ES in a nutshell, which is here. There's the task that I've added in. See, There's the created date. There's a priority. I'm using a tag at the moment because of testing stuff elsewhere. There's the project inbox. There's the source inbox. And there's the canvas folder. Class folder, that's the metadata menu plugin that Martin mentioned earlier. Then we've got the other folder. This is for other files mainly. So for example, this money file is actually an Excel document inside of my Obsidian folder, which is stored inside of here. You can see there's a Acuflow vid thing. There's a zip folder there. There's reading data. Yeah. My other folder is just other random documents that I have in Obsidian because it's easier to search Obsidian than it is my documents, as in my documents on my computer. Teacher result doc, I don't actually need that Word doc anymore, so I can delete that. There's the projects folder, there's the sources folder, there's the templates. So exactly the same thing. There's my notes from this live, so hey, done all that. Oh, CSS additions. I can show you that in a minute. This is what I was working on, so this is an example of what I'm working on right now as a... Ignore those properties, I don't actually use them. They're left over in their template. So we've got planning, packaging, headings. There's the sources. This is the source list. It's a book. And then here's the points that come from all the different sources. If we scroll down to the bottom. Oh, did I scroll too far? Oh no, I just have loads of space at the bottom of the... This is me where I just added enter so many times. There we go. You can see it's linked inside of the Education as a Science, which is the main dashboard main file here. Let's drag that down. Drag that down there. And in here, these are all the sections. So if I want perception, these are all the projects on perception. On curriculum, there's the curriculum projects, expertise. And you can see I've done that one. That one's highest priority. And you can see how all of my projects are in this one file. There's a lot of the software ones, the videos that you've probably seen on the channel. And they, because they're all tasks, appear inside of my dashboard here. And this is me querying for, let's zoom in first, querying for not done, essays, group by due. Oh, I was right. Okay, has due date, and then I'm hiding basically all of the information because I don't want to see it. And then path includes this. So I make sure that it's inside of my homepage file. And that's my due date for the essays, due dates for the projects, well, educational science projects, and then the Danny Hatcher project. So you can see inside, there you go, that's upcoming video. Here's my long list of projects that I'm yet to put a due date or scheduled date on, and they're sorted by priority, which is all done in the task plugin. If I actually, I'll need to zoom in for you to see this because YouTube loves to make things look small. Not done, group by, hide, etc, etc. So it's the same sort of query, it's just not got a due date, and that's all of those. And then down the bottom we have other, coming to click, other projects that I need to do, but there's no due date. So these ones are due dates, or have due dates, which is why we're grouping by date, so I know which one's coming up, or which one has a deadline coming up soon, which one doesn't. And then these ones don't have a deadline, but I want to be doing them, so that's why they're there. And then we've got all of the complete projects here, which is a long list of stuff. That is how I'm using the, oh yeah, there you go. There's some notes that I made earlier, and that's exactly how I use the canvas. So that's, I think that's everything. I think that covers everything. That's the dashboard, that's the task plugin, that's how I'm using the task plugin. Yeah, if there's no other questions, I don't see any other questions in chat. I think I will end out the stream now. I'm going to go back to me. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat, and I'm also going to keep my eye on the thing. But yeah, if you want to, I remembered. Oh, I remembered. Because what we were going to do, no, that's not there. We were going to do the additions, weren't we? So, the CSS stuff. I said earlier, there it is. So it's a CSS file. If I cut that, so the download link in description, go to the live vault .obsidian. There's no folder, so I'm going to go to settings, appearance, scroll down, CSS snippets, go to folder. It's going to now create the folder, snippets folder. See live vault Obsidian snippets. Now paste it. And now when I exit out and refresh, there's the snippets. I turn it on. and it's going to look disgusting because my snippets aren't designed for light mode. There's the dark mode. So now you get the highlighted block text, which you saw in mine. You get the green at the top, and you'll also notice that when you hover over, it's much wider as well on the side. Do you sync anything of this to a smartphone? Yes. So I'm going to exit out of that. Let's just close all of that down. I swear I got rid of that. It's just lingering in the background. Okay. Yes, so this entire vault is synced to my phone. So everything is on my phone. The only thing that isn't synced, so if I go and show you my sync settings inside of here, you can see there's storage uses. I sync images. I don't sync audio, videos, or PDFs. But everything else is synced onto my phone, which means when I'm, for example, at conferences, I can search up my vault when I'm on my phone. So when I was at a conference in Berlin, I was looking for, we were doing a conference on, what was it? I think it was synergies. I think it was dynamic synergies and Bayesian hypothesis, something like that. I think it was dynamic synergies inside of attractor states, of the attractor landscape inside of ecological psychology. And I was looking for the Bayesian brain hypothesis and what active inference was saying about that. If you don't understand these words, don't worry about it. But I was looking for the active inference interpretations of attractor landscapes, and at the conference I couldn't remember what the words were, what the research was. So because I have Obsidian on my phone, I just looked it up, found it, and then just added a link to the file. So I had a source file for like conference, I think it's Berlin conference, and when I found the note, I just bracket, and then I think it was Bayesian hypothesis. So I knew when either I came home or went back to the hotel, that was the file where I found the information from. So yes, I do have this sync vault on my phone. Speaking of accidental empty spaces, do you find plugins that handle auto formatting, such as linter, mess things up? So I don't use any plugins that do auto formatting things because it just messes around with. I'm going to move off of that because it just messes around with lots of different things. Yes, they can work, but I find it more of a hassle to troubleshoot when they don't work than just doing it myself. I do use Pandoc to export to Word, so when I do, do I have any images in this file? No. So when I'm working, this was also an essay. When I'm working inside of Obsidian, obviously it's markdown. When I go to what I would say format the things, I use Pandoc, so I use my hotkey Shift-Alt-P, and now you can see it's a Word document, which is here. So it's just turned the markdown file into a Word document. That is settings, community plugins, this one. The Pandoc plugin is the basic Pandoc plugin. There is no settings involved. It's just turn markdown into Word. Get the words out there. You do need Pandoc installed on your computer. But yes, I use that to make sure that when I'm copying text over, it goes over as text rather than as markdown text, because when I'm copying, for example, links into WordPress, if I copy it from Obsidian, it will go square bracket, whatever it is, square bracket, open link, etc. If it's coming from Word, it goes over as an actual link. And then if you're publishing academic articles, or you're putting something in to turn it in for university or whatever it happens to be, then obviously you want to format in whatever citation formatting styles and bibliographies and all that sort of stuff. Far easier to do all that formatting in Word, but you can't. For me, I can't write in Word because I end up scrolling up and down. I have loads of Word windows open, and Obsidian is where I do my writing. Word is where I do my formatting. That's how I see it. Okay. Daily noted, quick notes, ideas, non-project related tasks. Nothing goes in Obsidian. What do you mean by nothing goes in Obsidian? So daily noted, that just goes inside of my canvas here. So if I have something I need to do, like a phone number I need to remember, or something, well, my shopping list is there. That's my shopping list. So I just open that up. But yeah, any quick daily notes that isn't pertinent to a source file, will just double click and then type thing, and then when it's done, good, and then delete. On my phone, I use Morgan, so Alt-C is my global hotkey. I use Morgan, and then it will just come into here. So I'm going to say, yeah, I've done that. So you can see I added this on my phone. This is just an article that I read while I was downstairs eating lunch, and it goes into Morgan. So I use my phone for quick capture because Obsidian's like startup time is a bit slow. So quick notes for me is Morgan. Ideas, again, Morgan, and then it comes into Obsidian. Non-project related tasks. I don't have a non-project related task really, apart from habits, which would be, well, there. My task management is Morgan. Tasks and projects very, very similar. Even inside of here, so you can see teacher assault. This here is a, let's go, where are we? So that project here, this file is, we're getting really into the weeds here. This teacher assault task inside of Morgan is linked by the URI, so URL. So this file, if I Control-Shift-C, you can see URL copied, and then I can paste that into Morgan, which is what I've done. Oh, it keeps opening up on my other screen because my other screen's my default. It links here. So my tasks of actually doing stuff is in Morgan, but when I'm managing projects, working out what project to work on, what project is coming up inside of Obsidian, that's where I use the task plugin. There is hopefully, fingers crossed, going to be an integration at some point in the next 4 months, something like that. So this won't be a manual copy and paste moving over. But yeah, so there's that one. I'm currently in the process modifying metadata on all my notes. I wouldn't edit metadata on all the notes. I would just work with what it is that you're doing and then just work with the notes that you're working on at the time, rather than going back and editing all of those different notes, because that, to me, that's busy work. So if you've got tons, I haven't touched most of these source files. So if I was to, if I go here, and then go, I don't know, this one, yeah, see, this has got source tag. I don't use that. It's got authors in the property. I don't use that. That was 2022. Wait, it's 24 now, isn't it? Yeah, it's 2 years ago. Wow. Yeah, so this is an old file, an old source file. I'm not going to delete it because it might be useful. Okay, that was probably one of the worst politically used sources I could have opened. Let's open up this one instead. So this file, oh wow, this is a really old file. Yes, okay, there you go. But yeah, so I have loads of files inside of my vault that are years old, and I really don't want to go through and manage all of this. There's really no point. If I find it useful somehow in my vault, so sometimes things will appear. So if I'm searching for what was in this common knowledge, let's look for that. Common knowledge. Actually, because I'm going to have quite a few files with common knowledge in, the sources would still appear inside of the file. Yeah, I'm having second thoughts too. It's too much work. Yeah, it's way too much work. Oh, it's because it's, you know what, let's just do it this way instead. Search for that. Excuse me? Search for that, there we go. Oh, interesting. It's not finding it. I don't know why it's not finding it. It should be finding it. Anyway, worked examples inside of live streams isn't great. I'm sure there's a reason why it's not working. But yeah, so when I find a use for the file, then it's there, but I don't manually go through and edit this stuff. That's why I still have all of these classes, which I don't use. So yes, I think that covers everything. I don't think there's anything else for me to mention. So replay is available. I've gone through all of the plugins. Actually, let's go to the live. Where am I going? What am I doing? Okay, Danny, remind yourself. What are you doing? Where are you going? Oh, I don't have the... That was silly. I threw the dashboard down. There we go. That's where I'm going. And this is what I'm doing. That's where I am. Orientation. Orientation live right there. Do you use the map view plugin? No. I've gone through all of the plugins I use. I can show you the plugins right now. Better word count, data view, metadata menu. I don't actually use it. It's just there. Natural language dates I'm playing with because of the task plugin. We'll see how that works. Plugin update tracker I went through. Pandoc I've gone through. Quick add I've gone through. Task I've gone through. Templater I don't use anymore. It's just lingering there. And Zotero integration I've gone through. So yeah, they are all the plugins that I use, community plugins, and then there's all the core plugins. Scrap properties. Only use aliases and tags. Yes, I agree. Properties are nice, but I don't use them. They're just a pain in the bum. Martin, just for reference, this is the drop down that I was referring to earlier that I have, but I don't have. So yes, so I've covered all of them. Done. I've done that, and yeah, right. So it's not worth the hassle? Yeah, no, it's really not. So I'm now going to go back to my webcam because I've now shown you the addition CSS, and I'm going to close out for the night. So thank you for watching, and if you're on the replay, let me know in the comments that you got all the way to the end or you skipped to the end because you saw a timestamp somewhere. But yeah, if you do have any questions, just ask me, either find me on Discord or message me in some way. I'm sure I will respond. But yeah, that's it from me, and have a good morning, evening, afternoon,